There's like a group of people who will just refuse to talk about money with someone who they're dating because they see it as like a touchy subject or something that's like too personal.
I've known people that literally don't have this conversation until they are married. What if you're so off base and then this is just like kind of a deal breaker for you? That's crazy.
Their finances are a mess and they're embarrassed about it, or they just have no clue what's going on with their finances. That to me is the only reason people don't want to talk about money.
Don't talk about it until you're close to getting married or something. And it's like, I think that's like too late at that point.
Welcome back to the show. Lauren and I are back for our weekly episode where we talk all things money. Now, Lauren, I'll admit it's been quite a few years since I've been on the dating scene, but before my wife and I got married, I remember we had a few, I guess you can call them like of those awkward conversations, you know, when you can tell things are getting a bit more serious. And one of the conversations in particular was about money. What are my values around money? What were her values around money? And more importantly, how would it look like to manage our finances as a couple once we got married? And, you know, it was really important for me to talk about what money would look like after we got married, because, you know, I'm sure most people have heard that statistic that something like 50% of marriages end in divorce. And one of the leading causes is money fights and money problems. And, you know, even to this day, it still just kind of blows my mind that people almost, there's like a group of people who will just refuse to talk about money with someone who they're dating because they see it as like a touchy subject or something that's like too personal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see that all the time. And you're just like, don't talk about it until you're close to getting married or something. And it's like, I think that's like too late at that point. Like you're obviously very serious with someone. So why not have that conversation just a little bit earlier? Yeah, for us. So I've been, you know, with my husband for quite a long time. And I feel like I was in a much different place when we first started dating. Like that was like my mid-20s. And I feel like I'm a completely different person now. But same kind of thing. Like I wasn't into money as much as I am now based on kind of my journey, you know, through my debt-free journey and things like that. So we really started having the conversation. I knew what his sort of thoughts around money were. And, you know, he was kind of had that abundant mindset, was really able to create money. And he just had a really positive mindset around it overall. But I feel like we didn't really have like pretty specific conversations around it until I was in my debt-free journey. And then we started kind of looking at each other's debts and looking, you know, and he at first was kind of like, oh, I don't really care about this debt. You know, it was just a little bit of credit card debt from a business that he had. And at that point, I was kind of like, oh, like I do care about this. So why don't you? You know what I mean? But then as I was working through my debt payoff journey, we were not married at the time. We were just, you know, dating at that point. He sort of, you know, monkey see, monkey do. He sort of got into the groove of it and ended up paying off his debt. And we got married debt free and have really been on the same page since then. So yeah, I haven't been on the dating scene in a little bit, and it would probably look a lot different if I was at this point, just kind of where I'm at in my financial journey. But yeah, that's kind of what it looked like for us.
100%. Like, I feel like at this point, with how much work like I've put in my finances, you know, obviously me and my wife, like if you were ever to have to restart that, like knowing what you know now, it's like there's just no way I could go like backtrack on that, you know, like on all of those things, like values with money that like I've grown to have now. But you said one thing, like when people will get engaged, then they talk about money. And I'm like, yeah, like you've already committed that this is the person you're going to spend your life with. You just have to go through the full process. But like at that point, it is almost too late. But yeah, I feel like today's a really good opportunity to run through a bunch of dating scenarios and kind of play like a game of red flag, green flag with money conversations. And so why don't I read off a few of these for you and we can kind of get our opinions here. So the first one is that they split the bill evenly on the first date. What do you think?
I think that's a green flag. I mean, I know some women might not like that, but I mean, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it depends like who asked who on the date, you know? Like I feel like that to me that's where it makes most sense. But I will say like maybe as you get more like into dating, like more serious into dating, it's like, all right, let's just split it, you know?
Yeah.
Some of the formalities kind of leave as you get kind of further down the road. But okay, this next one is, what if they insist on paying for the first date?
I say that's a green flag. If you want to do that and you're insisting on it, go for it. Who's going to stop you?
Yeah, I feel like for me, like, I don't know, maybe it's just like an old school thought, but like I feel like if you ask someone out on a date, like you should be the one to pay. You know, like it's weird if you try to split it at that point afterwards. I don't know. I just I don't think so. But now this is kind of the other side of this. What if the person you're dating always forgets their wallet?
Big red flag. There's a reason they're forgetting their wallet. They don't want to pay.
Yeah. I don't know how you forget your wallet. Like that's like the one thing that I'm like my wallet on my phone.
Yeah.
Anytime I leave the house, I'm like, if I forget my wallet and I don't know where it's at, like I'm having like a heart attack.
Yeah, that's why it's shady. Okay, here's one. They lease a new luxury car every year.
If you're leasing it, you can't afford to buy it. I don't know. That's kind of what I think. Probably a red flag because I feel like leasing a car, like at this point, I used to think like leasing a car every year or like every 3 years, it was like, oh, like you're higher up on the financial, higher up in your personal finances. But now I'm like, if you're leasing a car, it's because you can't afford to buy it.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's different in this sense, but yeah, I gotta think something else is going on. But anyway, so red flag for me, maybe not for everybody. They Venmo request you for $3.
If you're dating, I feel like a $3 Venmo request. It's the request, where like you have
Yeah.
to open up the app and then send it to them and be like, hey, can you make sure to pay me that $3? I'd probably say it's a red flag, but I totally get the sentiment. I would hope the other person remembers to give you $3, but I probably wouldn't go out sending Venmo requests for $3.
Yeah, red flag for me. I'm just like, why are we talking about $3 things? I don't know.
Yeah.
They still split Netflix with their ex.
Ooh, I feel like whether this is someone you're dating or just someone splitting like Netflix or phone bills, I don't know, anything, right? With an ex is just red flag for me. I'm like, it's just like you guys, you cut ties, let's just cut ties fully and then move on.
Yeah, red flag, cut the ties. I'm in. I'm out.
Okay, what about this one? They have a budget and they stick to it.
Green flag all day.
What if that budget means that they can't afford to go out on dates though? Hmm.
I don't know. That's a great question. Again, I haven't been on the dating scene in a while, but I don't know. They should be budgeting to accommodate for dates if that's what they're going to do. Like, what else? How are we going to go on a date then? We're not
Yeah,
dating then. I don't know.
shouldn't be dating if you can't afford it.
Exactly.
Okay, and what if the person you're dating doesn't track their spending at all?
I would say this is mostly like a red flag, but also could be like in the middle because if they have like a
Mhm.
good understanding of like their finances overall, they don't necessarily have to track everything. So I'm kind of like yellow flag on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I feel like if if their finances are a mess and they're not tracking everything, it's like that's probably why it's a mess. But if like they got their things together, I'm like, okay, you probably don't need to be like super meticulous about how you track everything. But okay, this next one says that they're paying down their student loans aggressively.
This is a big green flag for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say the same thing. And that's funny because when my wife and I were getting serious, that was when she was like, all right, I want to like pay my student loans off completely. Like she was a very big believer that she didn't want to like, cause at the time I had just paid off my debt. And so she was like, I don't want to, go into this marriage with a ton of debt, bringing a ton of debt to the table. And I told her, I was like, hey, if we get married and you still have debt, like I'm taking whatever I have in my savings, I'll help you pay it off. But it was a very big point for her.
Yeah, I do. I really like that someone is paying them off aggressively because I feel like not many
Yeah.
people do. This next one says they carry credit card debt but keep buying new gadgets.
Oh, credit card debt of all debt. I can understand most debts, like a car, obviously a house, student loans. I'm like, all right, you have
Yeah.
some leeway with that. Credit card debt, though, I'm like, that's just the most ridiculous debt to have. And it's probably one of the most common ones, but yeah, definitely a red flag for me.
Yep, big red flag for me too. They openly talk about their financial goals.
Mostly green flag, unless it's like the only thing they talk about, or like they talk about it so much that they can't, go out and do other things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say green flag. It's good thing that they have financial goals. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I definitely agree with you there. There were times during my journey where I've talked about it too much, and my husband, then boyfriend, had to be like, "Okay, let's settle down on this. Maybe let's have a conversation
Yeah.
about a different part of your life."
Yeah.
They refuse to talk about money at all.
Oh, such a red flag. And I feel like there's only ever two reasons. It's either their finances are a mess and they're embarrassed about it, or they just have no clue what's going on with their finances. Like that to me is the only reason people don't want to talk about money. So definitely a red flag.
I would say yellow flag for this one, mostly because it depends on where you're at in your dating. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like if you're
that's fair.
like at the very beginning, you might not want to talk about it yet, or you have like a major trust fund and you don't want to tell this person about it yet. You know what I mean? You never know. So
Yeah,
um,
or you make a good income and you don't
yeah,
want the other person to okay, that's fair. That's a
yeah,
good point. Okay, I can see it right in the middle now.
yeah. We jumped to way to opposite ends there, but
Yeah. Okay. What if they save for vacations instead of putting everything on a card? So they save up for a vacation to make sure they have it fully funded.
Green flag.
Even if that means that they have to wait like 4 years to go on vacation?
Well, just go on a different vacation. You don't need to, I mean, unless you're saving what, $20 a month or something, you might not be able to go on a vacation for a little bit, but maybe just go on a different type of vacation. I'm not sure. I'm not putting anything on a credit card, just adjust a little bit or get a side hustle or something to make up for that, you know?
Oh, yeah. When people throw their vacations on a credit card and then they're like, I don't know why I'm stuck in debt. It's like, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. Okay. They gamble or buy lottery tickets regularly.
If it's in their budget, green flag. If it's not and they're in debt and they're putting on a credit cards, or I don't even know if you can buy a lottery ticket on a credit card, but red flag. So I feel like it's either or. It depends on the situation.
I think you could buy a lot. I can't imagine you go to 7-Eleven and buy a lottery ticket with a credit card. They're like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. But I don't know. My dad loves to play like just like the regular, like he'll go to 7-Eleven all the time and just buy a lottery ticket. Yeah. And I think it's more just for like the thought of winning. But I'm always like, this is the biggest. Like I always have heard the saying, the lottery is like a tax on poor people because no rich people are ever going to play the lottery. You know, so I don't know. I don't care to play the lottery. Gambling, on the other hand, like you said, if you want to go like to Vegas and have a fun weekend and you don't go into debt for it, awesome, go for it. Okay, this next one is they invest even if it's just small amounts.
Green flag. It's a habit that matters.
Yep, 100%. I mean, when I started investing, it was like $100 a month, and I was like, this is like one of the highlights of like thinking of my personal finance journey was like committing to $100 a month.
Yeah, definitely. The next one says they've never had a savings account.
I don't know how you would get to that point as an adult and start dating people and just I'm like want to say anytime you open a checking account, they're like, do you want to just open a savings account with it? And it's just like a quick yes, you know? At this point for me, if they've never had a savings account, definitely a red flag. I'd be like, why? Are you an adult?
Right. Like you don't have any money on the side. It's just,
yeah.
Unless it's just all sitting in their checking account, but yeah. They live at home to save money.
I feel like it depends on like how old, you know, like what age are you and you two are dating at? Like, I would say kind of leaning towards red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like to become a full grown adult, you kind of got to go out on your own, you know? Yeah, but it's also very expensive. So I get that.
Yeah, true. I'm saying yellow flag again. I'm kind of like playing some of these side to side. Cause if you're like, maybe you're just fresh out of college or, you know, so going through some life change and you need to like have that additional support or you want to pay off your debt and you want to live at home, whatever. I think that's good. But yeah, if you're like 35, 40 years old living at home and then you're just parents, like it's time to go.
There's like a cutoff to where at one point you're like, oh, that's financially responsible. And at another point you're like, this is totally not the look, you know?
Right. They always upgrade to the newest phone.
If you can afford it, green flag. I feel like most people, though, they upgrade to the new phone instead of taking care of other things that should be taken care of. So I would say red flag. I just don't feel like there's a need to have the newest phone every single year. Again, like if it's like such a small percentage of your world, you know, go for it. But the new phones are always, you know, like at this point, they're over $1,000 every year, like just towards a new phone. That's going to be good for at least 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I just feel like at this point, it's just a waste of money.
Yeah.
I would say red flag.
Yeah. And like, I personally do not want to be logging it. Like, I hate switching phones. I will keep it until it dies because I hate like switching phones and like logging into all my apps and stuff. It's honestly, it's the worst thing I've ever experienced. I'd still have my iPhone 5 if it was still working.
I'll say like I have an iPhone 11 and it's going. I can feel it. Like I'll open a certain apps and like it just can't run those apps anymore. It's just like dying on them.
My dad had the iPhone 6 until, I'm not kidding you, within this past year, and then he has my sister's old iPhone 11, so he upgraded quite a bit. So iPhone 6, I said it has to be the last one in like that's working.
That still have like a home button on it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They do up to they do. I feel like the past few for that. But.
That's crazy. Okay, next one is they drive a beater car, but it's paid off.
Green flag. I mean, I know some people wouldn't like to be seen driving around that, but if your priority is not on your car, I think that's a green flag. It shouldn't matter like what car you drive, you know?
I feel like there's a threshold and I feel like you avoided that, you know? Like I feel like if they show up to pick you up for a date and they're like the, you know, like the side mirrors hanging off and like, you know, the seatbelt doesn't click all the way, you know, there's definitely a threshold.
Yeah, but if it's like an old Honda or something and they're just
Yeah,
driving
yeah,
it,
yeah,
so yeah, I think it's totally fine. Yeah,
yeah,
there's a
100%.
threshold there.
Okay, the next one is they pick up the tab for friends often.
Green flag if they can afford it, red flag if they can't.
100%.
Period.
I feel like the bad part is though that some people will do it a couple times and then they almost feel obligated to do it. And then it becomes like a habit and then they feel weird about if they don't do it. That is when it becomes a red flag for sure. Okay, the next one is they push you to just put it on your card.
If it's something I can't afford, red flag. If it's something I can afford, green flag, because I put everything on my card anyway and then just pay it off. So I guess it depends on what context here. But yeah,
Yeah.
if they're trying to get me to purchase something outside my means or purchase something for them, red flag.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah, I feel like when I hear someone say, "Oh, just put it on your card," it's more of like I'll worry about it later, you know? In that sense, I'm like, yeah, definitely a red flag then.
Yeah. This one says they have a financial planner or coach.
Oh, definitely a green flag. And I feel like some people would hear that and think like, oh, like, you know, it's almost like the same stigma that people have around like seeing a therapist. It's like, oh, you're seeing a therapist, there must be something wrong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love investing in myself. So honestly, big green flag for me.
Yeah.
Because I think I've gotten a lot of value out of the people coaches that I've invested into. So totally
Yeah.
green flag there. They have no idea what their credit score is.
I mean, definitely a red flag, but I'm trying to think like how do you not have like like no idea is pretty wild, you know? At least you could be like, oh, I'm like in the 700s, you know, or something like that. I'd be like, all right, that's, you know, a reasonable response. But for someone to just not know, and again, like I feel like it depends what age you are. If you're in your young 20s, it's like, okay, understandable. If you're like mid to any age above that, I'm like, you got to know these numbers now.
Yeah, it just shows me you're not financially savvy whatsoever because you should at least have a
Yeah.
handle on that and know like where you're sitting because, you know, if there's fraud or anything on it, you should probably know like what your credit report looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get defensive when money comes up.
There was another one earlier where you were like, oh, like if they don't want to talk about money, it could kind of be in the middle. I feel like, okay, I get that, but being defensive whenever money comes up, that to me is more of like, all right, that's a red flag. And I feel like there could be a lot of reasons why they get defensive. Some of those reasons might be more justified than others, but like in general, I'd say like if you just can't have a conversation like a normal tone about money, like it's definitely a red flag.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Okay, this next one says they celebrate financial wins like paying off debt.
Big green flag for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a green flag. I feel like you got to celebrate, you know, anytime you hit a financial milestone. Otherwise, they just become almost meaningless if you don't.
Exactly.
Okay, this next one says they make more money than you, but want to split everything 50-50.
You're dating. I guess I can see this, but I don't know. This is a yellow flag for me. So I can understand this when you're like dating and just kind of want to take everything 50-50, but I feel like I don't love this approach, you know, obviously when you're further along and you're like getting married and stuff like that. And if they're going to have this mindset when you get to that point, then it is a red flag for me. So this one's kind of like up in the air, but I don't know. I hate the 50-50 mindset, especially when it's not equal. But yeah, this one is a tough one, I feel.
I feel like if they're living together, then it becomes a red flag to me because then I'm like, okay, like you should take a more, you know, a more equal approach. Like obviously 50-50 is as equal as it can get, right? But like more, you know, if someone's making substantially more than the other person, that 50% for them is going to hurt a lot more than it does for you. But if you're not living together and you're just splitting things like activities that you do, stuff like that, then to me, I'm like, yeah, you should probably be splitting it, you know?
Yeah,
unless one person just wants to pay for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. They live paycheck to paycheck with no plan.
Big red flag for me.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because when you think about it, like I want to say it's like 60+% of people live paycheck to paycheck by the definition that if they didn't get their next paycheck, like a bill would go unpaid.
Yeah.
And so that's that, you know, if you're looking for someone to date, that eliminates a huge portion of the population right there. But yeah, I would agree. Definitely red flag.
This one says they're generous in thoughtful, not flashy ways.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a green flag, right? I feel like when it's generous just to be flashy, that's when it's like an ego thing. But when you're just trying to be generous, I think that's a good thing for sure.
What if they're putting this generosity on like a credit card?
Are they accumulating debt?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know.
Yeah, definitely a no.
I know.
At that point, they're probably just a people pleaser, you
Yeah,
know?
right. They got to reevaluate some things.
Yeah.
They make big purchases without thinking.
I don't know how you do that. I mean, clearly a lot of people do that. I can't imagine doing that though. Like sometimes, like we've talked about it before. I have like a threshold for me. If it's like over a couple $100, I'm like, okay, I just got to think about this. I got to like talk to my wife about it or something.
Yeah.
Not because we can't afford it, just because it's just like, is this really worth it? You know, and to not think about it, definitely a red flag.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like you need to sit down and like, this is a big financial decision. Like, let's relax a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I at least take 24, 48 hours, weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
They set financial boundaries and respect yours.
Clearly green flag for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely green flag there.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is they use credit card points for everything.
Again, I feel like I'm in the middle here because, I mean, let's just say they put, they travel a lot for work or whatever, and they do have a lot of credit card points, and that's what they want to use. Cool. But are they like spending crazily just to get these credit card points? I guess that would all. There's too many yellow flags here for me, but yeah, I feel like this one's a yellow flag because I don't know the context.
I mean, yeah, agreed. Like, how did they get those points? You know, because there's a lot of people who will say like, oh, I want to put it on my credit card because I want to get the points, but they still carry a balance. So like the interest that they're paying, most of the time points are worth like pennies on the dollar for what you earn in points. Like is never going to outweigh if you pay interest on a balance. But yeah, I mean, if they have enough points to pay for whatever they're doing, awesome. I feel like that's pretty cool. So yeah, yellow flag. Okay. Next one is they want separate bank accounts forever, even if you got married.
This one for me, it's going to depend again. It's kind of in the middle here. Cause like, my situation, I like to keep things separate, but we also have a joint savings account but we do talk about everything, have open communication with money. So that's not really a concern. If you want to keep everything separate and sort of hidden and not communicate about it, I think that is a red flag. But if it's communicated about, I don't see a problem with this.
Yeah. I feel like it's how that statement gets made, like if you're just like, they start talking about it like, no, I just want to keep it separate forever. Like if you make it kind of like like there's no wiggle room there. There's no room for compromise. I'm like, well, that's not really how, a relationship works anyway. But yeah, I mean, I could see there's ways to make it work. And then there's ways to where this is definitely a red flag,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And the last one is they say money doesn't matter to me.
Okay, red flag, because money matters to literally everybody. It's why we go to work every single day. So that's just crazy.
Yeah, anyone who says money doesn't matter to me is they're not living in reality. I mean, it has to matter for you because you have to pay for your housing, you have to pay for your food. Now, it doesn't have to be the only thing that matters, but you definitely got to care about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Lauren, we talked about a lot of different scenarios there. What would you say is like the time that people should actually have these types of conversations with the person that they're dating?
Question of the day, Nick. When should people have these conversations? I feel like for me, and obviously I'm in a different place in my life and I would want to bring up money like sooner rather than later. But I feel like if you feel like this person is someone that you really see in your future and you're heading in a more serious direction, whether that's looking at, at getting engaged or living together or, being in a more long-term relationship, I think it'd be important then to sort of feel it out and make sure you're aligned on those things. Because if you're not, then you have to make the determination, do you want to continue, this relationship with somebody? I don't think you need to bring it up day one, but I also feel like if you're dating somebody month after month, you're probably going to get a good idea, just kind of their habits and things like that, like where they may be with it. I mean, it could be speculation, but I don't know. I think that the more serious it gets, like, then, you really need to figure out what their relationship with money looks like.
Yeah, I feel like if you're dating just to date and have fun, like probably a lot further down the road. Yeah. But if you're dating to be, to find someone who you want to spend your life with, probably a lot sooner, actually, Yeah. But I feel like there's milestones that happen in a relationship, right? Like you meet each other's parents, you potentially talk about moving in with each other, like you start planning your lives around each other. All right, now it's probably a good time to start talking about it before things get too serious, and then you guys realize that you're not aligned on some things, like like kids, religion, parenting styles, if you even want to have kids, politics, money, like all those things, it's kind of hard to start to develop a very deep relationship if you guys are misaligned on enough of those things.
Yeah. I wonder if, I think a lot of people, I've known people that literally don't have this conversation until they are married, which is crazy to me because I'm like, what if you're so off base and then this is just like kind of a deal breaker for you? That's crazy. But
yeah,
I wonder if like statistics would look better if people were to have these conversations earlier in the process about the hard things of life, like money, kids, religion, where you want to live, what do you want your future to look like? I feel like, I don't know why we just avoid these hard conversations,
Yeah, and I feel like there's always like, two types of people, like the people who like to be very planned out and thinking about the future, and the type of people who just kind of go with the flow. And more often than not, opposites kind of attract each other. And so, it's kind of hard to have conversations if one person is very like, I just want to talk about these things and I'm not set in stone, but I do want to talk about them. And the other person's like, I don't know, I'll just kind of deal with it when it comes up, But yeah, I think if people were to have these types of conversations earlier, it would definitely do more good than it does harm. Like if you scare someone off because you wanted to have a serious conversation, like, oh, well, like they were probably going to get scared off at some point anyway.
Yeah. And then I guess, you need to make the determination when you talk to your person about this.
Yeah.
Depending on how they answer, like, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? If they're like, I hate money, I've heard this before. Like, I'm not going to save for retirement. I'm just going to spend I'm just going to save what I make, or I'm just going to spend what I make and live my life. And I don't want to, you're not going to change my mind about it. And it's like, if that's not how you want to live your life, then you have to make some serious decisions, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And there can be a right time you may find the right time to bring up when to talk about this, but you could still go about it the wrong way. Because like people are so different, people could be touchy about money. Like there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to bring this up. And I feel like it's always better to lean on like the side of like, let me just share about my situation in hopes that you talk about your situation. Like if you two can kind of like engage in the conversation together as opposed to like poking and prodding about their situation.
Yeah.
Like you almost have to give up a little bit of your scenario before they can give up some of theirs.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only way to go about it.
That's like I said, that's what happened to me whenever I was dating and starting my debt-free journey. Like I was like putting it all out on the table and was like, this is what I'm doing, and just sort of doing my own thing. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, he was like kind of watching and like seeing what I was doing. And then before I knew it, his debt was paid off and he was like more strict about budgeting than I was. And I was like, how did this happen?
100%. That's exactly how it happened for me and Ariana. We were like, I was started to get more serious about money, and then she started to get more serious, and then she's like, I'm going to pay off all my debt. And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
100% though. I totally agree with that. Okay, that wraps up today's episode. And as always, if you found some value out of it, you got a good laugh, the best way you can help us grow is by subscribing and sharing this with a friend.
Yeah, and if you want to have your money question answered on the show, you can visit our website, justanothermoneypodcast.com, and click the submit a question button. And don't forget to join us for another episode of Just Another Money Podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.